family, I'm Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're going to strip things back and I want to show you one of the most dynamic and articulate amps in the entire fractal ecosystem. We're going to take a look at the FAS Wreck amp model, which is an idealized version of a Trainwreck amp model. There's also several authentic sounding Trainwreck models in here. So let's start there with the Wrecker Express. I've got it at the stock settings on here, and I'm playing a Les Paul Artist from about 1979, 1980. I've got some Mr. Glynn's pickups in here. So I've got a humbucker in the bridge, a P90 in the neck. Let's hear the Wrecker Express with my free IR and a little bit of the large room reverb. Then we'll hear the FAS Wreck at the same settings. These amps are really unique in the way that they clean up with your guitar volume control, and you can get a range of different tones and textures just by setting them up kind of cranked and then using your guitar volume and tone control, which is exactly what we're going to do. But first, let's hear the core tone difference between the Wrecker Express and the FAS Wreck. Then I'm going to dial in the FAS Wreck to where I like it. Let's go on the bridge pickup wide open. So they've got a very similar character. You could hear though when I was really digging in with the volume control wide open on the A string that the Wrecker Express was kind of falling apart. There's all this like crossover distortion in there that's quite nasty sounding. Now that is part of the character of the real amp. So you do have the option of having that in there. But personally for me, I like that when I play those lower strings on there with a lot of gain, that it still sounds tight and articulate. So that's why I like the FAS Wreck. I should mention as well, in the input block, I've turned the threshold on the gate almost all the way off, just so that when my volume control is all the way on 0, there's no hiss. But when I turn it up, you'll probably notice the slightest amount of hiss on there. It's just kind of like playing a real amp, but it does let me push my volume control down into the extremes without choking out on the gate. Now, there's pretty straightforward controls on here: gain, bass, middle, treble, presence, and a bright switch. So my preferred settings on here are to crank everything except the presence up and to turn the bright switch on with a Les Paul style guitar anyway. So let's hear this tone. Then I'm going to slowly wind the volume control down and we're going to hear a range of different tones and textures on there. It's almost like you can go from a really thick single note lead sound, back it off just a bit to a Marshall style crunch, and then you turn it down even further and you can get a really sweet chimey Vox style tone. It's like a greatest hit selection of crunchy amps. kind of magic. There's everything that you would need for, say, a rock gig in there. Volume control all the way up for your solos. Back it off a little bit for your rhythm. Back it off even further for your clean. You can switch pickups on there. You can have a whole lot of fun. Another thing that I like doing is manipulating the tone control as well. So we could take the tone control, say, on the bridge pickup down quite a bit and sort of balance it out with the neck pickup. I've got a P90 in the neck, so it's kind of easy to make this sound rhythm guitar worthy on the neck. So I'll back the volume control off for the neck, but then I'll back the tone control off on the bridge. So bridge will be wide open there, and I'm just going for a big, thick kind of lead sound there. So let's get that bridge happening. So everything wide open. Just a little bit of ping-pong delay on there is pretty sweet for the leads as well. Now, I've been playing that with a kind of rare guitar that's been heavily customized. It's also a darker sounding guitar on there. So just to contrast and give you an idea of how you can maybe tweak the amp settings to suit your guitar, this is a stock standard HSS Fender Player 2 Strat. Nothing has been done to it. It's the stock setup, the stock pickups, the same gauge of strings on there. I'm going to start out on the neck pickup, and I think what I'm going to do is probably just turn the bright switch off because this is a very bright sounding guitar. And again, I might just back the onboard tone controls on this guitar off a little bit just to kind of match up what I heard before, but it's probably going to be a bit too much to start with. The FAS Wreck is also a great platform for your distortion pedals, especially if you like using kind of a crunchy amp layered with another distortion or drive. One of my favorite combos is to just back the gain off below 5 and then use something like the Sonic drive, distortion at around 4, level just above noon. Keep the tone control quite low on this one, and it gives us this. It also lets us keep using the volume and tone controls on here to manipulate the sound, but we'll start wide open. Not only is this a fantastic sounding amp model in its own right, I think it's a great reminder that there's so many different ways to enjoy your guitar sounds on the Axe-Fx FM9 and FM3. This one mimics more of a stripped down real world setup, but with an amp model that you can't get in the real world. The FAS original amps sound so good, especially in the latest firmware, and I find I've been using them a lot more. This FAS Wreck for all my kind of classic rock style tones. It's sort of like a Marshall meets a Vox meets an old Fender. Beautiful stuff. The FAS Stealth and Modern for heavy tones, and then there's loads of different options for your lower gain tones like the FAS Rhythm amp, or if we take a look at the list on here, the FAS Express, kind of again an optimized Trainwreck, the FAS Bass for bass guitar, the FAS Lead can do some really nice kind of almost Dumble meets boogie style tones on there. And then you've got the super crazy stuff like FAS Skull Crusher and FAS Modern 2 and 3. I'd highly encourage you to check out all of these amps in here. They sound really good straight out of the block, and most importantly, they make me want to play my guitar, and I encourage all of you to go and do the same thing. Thanks so much for watching this Tuesday Tone Tip. If you've got any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments section below. Otherwise, I will see you all next week for another one.